This tutorial is about putting in the subfloor. So we're finally going to get to the flooring. And this is a section at the garage. And this happens to be a section where the grade would be at this level and the first floor is way up here. So it's not necessarily impossible to handle that situation, but we'll have to have a lot of steps from the garage to the first floor. But this shows the brick ledge and it shows that there's no brick. We still have a brick ledge. In the event that there were brick, we would put it here. But as I said, we don't, when we made this particular stacked wall for our project, we don't have brick here. So we have gypsum board, rigid insulation, plywood sheathing, studs, and then our gypsum board on the inside. But this is the plywood subfloor, and that's what we want to put in. And notice where the plywood subfloor goes to. It butts right up against the plywood sheathing. So we're not building our model in the sequence that it would be built on the job site. First, they would pour the concrete wall. Then the carpenters would come in and put the sill plate. Then they would put in the floor joists, and then they would put in the plywood subfloor on top of the floor joist. But we're going to put in the subfloor next. So that's kind of what it looks like in uh, a section view. This is a three-dimensional view. Again, it shows the plywood coming across to here and butting right up against the plywood sheathing on the inside. And this might be a little bit better image. It's a bit pixelated, but nonetheless, see, we can come up to right up to there, and then just showing it in hidden lines. Yeah, it comes up to there. So we go over to the floor plan, and we're going to say um, architecture, and then we'll pick a floor, and we're looking for 3/4 inch plywood, and I don't see any. So what do we have to do? Yep, edit the type, duplicate it. We'll call it 3/4 inch plywood. And then we'll change the structure so that the material is plywood. So we'll come over here to that, and we'll type PLY in the search box, and we see plywood sheathing. That works for us. Okay. The thickness of it is 3/4 of an inch. And we're good. We'll say okay. We'll say okay. And now we're doing a 3/4 inch plywood. So we're trying to draw a floor. We have to actually draw the boundary. So we're going to come over to this line. And in our plan view, we want to make sure that we go right up against this plywood sheathing. And we're just going to draw a perimeter all the way around the house at the plywood sheathing. Now here's a question of the plywood sheathing is not going to follow around there. So for now, I'm just going to bring this guy right straight down. We'll have to go back in and modify the floor there a little bit at the stair opening because there's a shaft there of or an opening, and the floor is not going to go through the stairs. But we just follow the perimeter. We made our stacked walls quite nicely. It has the plywood all the way around it. So we simply draw to the plywood. Now, notice here that we don't have a plywood floor in the garage. That's a concrete slab, so we aren't taking our subfloor into the garage. We'll miss the garage, I didn't quite get that right, so I'll use the Align tool. Come over here and hit the Tab key until it selects the line that I want. And then we'll keep going. The Pick Line tool might work better for us, but I find that sometimes it doesn't work that well. And so therefore you have to go back in and clean it up like you saw me clean that one spot up over there. So I just draw the lines. It ends up taking less time. I've made a complete enclosed entity. The level is the first floor, which is correct, I believe. We'll look at it in section to make sure. The material is correct, so we'll say okay. And now we have our plywood subfloor in there. Let's take a look at it in section real quick to make sure that it's in the right spot. We can see our plywood subfloor is, in fact, where it's supposed to be. It goes all the way up to the plywood sheathing on the wall. And we now have our plywood subfloor all the way around the first floor of the house. And if I do a three-dimensional view and isolate this element, you can see there's my plywood subfloor. I can show it to you in all the different areas. Now, one of the things that I didn't do, which you may want to do when you're putting in the first floor, is actually lock it to this point. And when you're drawing in a floor, I'll draw another one real quickly just to show you what I'm talking about. And I'm going to draw a perimeter. I don't have anything to lock it to. So I'll draw it right here, for example. And now you can see that there was a lock symbol there. And it's gone now. Okay, so I'll draw it again. As I was putting in this floor, you can see, you can't see. I want to show you something that's not allowing me to do. We'll try it one more time. There it is. Now you saw that little lock symbol. If I would have clicked on that symbol as I was drawing the floor all the way around the house, then if I moved the wall, the floor would have moved with it. It would have stayed connected to that plywood sheathing. I did not do that. And that's one reason I don't like to put the floor in until I'm sure of where my walls are going to be. So I know I'm probably not going to be moving any of these walls. And so that's our plywood subfloor, and now we have that. And on top of that, we'll put our finished floor.